welcome back to my channel. So in this video I am doing my June wrap up. So this, if you had seen my previous video, you will have seen that I've been taking part in two kind of like spooky Summerween vibes readathons that is going to take place over the summer, so between June, July and August. So this is my June wrap up, where I will tell you how I got on, the books that I read, and in the next video that I am going to be doing will be my July TBR. So that will be where I will then pick the TBR for July for the next set of spooky reading for July. So the first of the readathons is Summer Camp of Haunted Happenings. Now that is hosted over on Bookstagram by thatbookishclub. And for this one, so both of the readathons, they have a kind of a main prompt for June, July and August. And then they also have like a kind of bingo board of extra prompts that you can also complete as well. So again, if you'd seen my previous video, I used a spinner wheel to pick sort of prompts. This Summer Camp of Haunted Happenings, they only have 12 extra bingo prompts. So that one's quite simple, because then what I did was I did a spinner wheel for 4 times, and then between those 4 and then the overall main monthly prompt, that was my TBR set for that readathon. So I will put up a graphic here of the bingo board as I'm filling it in. It also will have, whether you can see it or not, I'm not sure, but it will also have kind of ticks on how far I actually did get. So I didn't get through the whole of the TBR for that one. But what I'm going to do is the books that I'd kind of picked to fulfill a prompt that I didn't get around to reading, I'm going to put in my TBR jar, and then sort of like from September onwards, then when I will then start kind of doing videos that are pretty much based on TBR jar picks, my reads, then I will hopefully, I'll probably pull them out again at some point, and hopefully that's when I'll get to reading them. So for this one, I will run through what I did read. So the main monthly prompt for June for this one was to read a psychological thriller. So the book that I picked, and I did finish, was The Crucifix Killer by Chris Carter. I have had Chris Carter's books on my Kindle for an absolute age, and I keep meaning to get to them, and I just never do. So I'm really thankful that I'm kind of taking part in a little buddy read where we're going to do the whole series. So that was just an absolute perfect one to pick to kick off June, which I probably read in about 2 to 3 days, because once I started it, I could not finish it. I absolutely loved it. I read quite a lot of crime and thriller, and this one is very graphic right from the offset, but I absolutely loved it. So I'm really excited to carry on with the series, and hopefully I will be able to incorporate the next book in with my July TBR, because that's when I'll be reading the second book in that series. So for The Crucifix Killer, I gave that a 5 stars. As I said, absolutely loved it. I was completely kind of annoyed because I sort of guessed who the killer was going to be, and then there's like a scene later on in the book where obviously like the author pretty much makes you think, okay, maybe not, and then actually no, it is. So I was very annoyed at that one, because I would have been like, oh, I knew the killer. Well, I kind of did, but then I didn't, and then I got hoodwinked. But yeah, so massive 5 stars. If kind of Chris Carter was one of those authors where you're thinking of reading, if you love a crime and a thriller and a psychological thriller, honestly, give it a go because it is amazing. So then after that, I picked up A Single Breath. So this was one of the additional prompts, and that was to read a destination thriller. So A Single Breath by Lucy Clark. I listened to that one on audio, which was kind of nice because I managed to get through that in a couple of days or so. When I was working from home, I'd have it on in the background. Basically in that one, we meet the female main character and her husband, which obviously is the main character. I literally can't remember the names. Eva and Jackson. Literally just had to go and look that up. But yeah, so Eva and Jackson, they're a newly married couple. They go on holiday to, it's either Devon or Cornwall, where Eva's mum lives. And Jackson, who is Australian, so I think he moved over to the UK 2-3 years ago, kind of met Eva, and they've only been married a year. So they're on holiday there. He's sort of one for fishing and a lot of outdoor stuff. So he goes off pretty early in the morning and essentially he disappears. Kind of presumed dead, that he's drowned in some fishing accident. Obviously Eva then travels to Australia to kind of meet his family, which she's never met before. They kind of have no clue about her, because as it turns out, he is already married and he has a kid over in Australia. So it's so the more time she's there, kind of secrets and lies are just unravelling, and it's basically the man that you've married isn't the man that you thought he was. I kind of actually quite struggle with audiobooks. I want to get into them more, but I find that if I play them, especially with working from home or doing other stuff, my the concentration, it's sort of it blurs in background noise, and then it's oh, hang on, what have I actually just been listening to? But this one, I was definitely keeping my ear on it to be right, what is actually happening? I need to make sure I'm not losing the plot with this, because I am very, very intrigued to see how it ended. So that one was, I think I probably gave that about 4 stars. I did enjoy it, obviously not as much as the Chris Carter one, because that was amazing. But I did enjoy that one. So yeah, 4 stars. Again, descriptions and settings, especially for Australia, it was just done so well. Yeah, I was literally listening to it thinking, oh, just to be on an Australian beach right now would be heaven. So that was the second book that I read for this one. And then next I picked up Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and that one was for the prompt of, again, I cannot remember, bear with. Yes, I remember now. A thriller or horror released pre-2020. So I kind of remember when the Pride, Prejudice and Zombie book was coming out, and it was kind of on my radar, because anything to do with zombies I absolutely love. And I think again that's another one that was on my Kindle absolutely ages, never got around to it. So as I was kind of trying to pick the books for the TBR, I was just do you know what, I'm putting that one on there. I kind of think that if you're going to read Pride and Prejudice, it's probably better to read this one, because it does kind of take a little bit of the old style English out, so it's a lot easier to read. I mean, obviously, I do love a classic literature as well, which I will dip into that occasionally throughout the year. I remember obviously doing Pride and Prejudice at school, like a lot of majority of people in the UK. But I do kind of remember how much it was quite a slog to get through. But when reading this version of it with the zombies, it didn't seem as much as a slog, to kind of get through. So I definitely kind of recommend, if you kind of want to read it, go down the zombie route. I mean, chapters are relatively short, even though it kind of has a load of chapters in. They're relatively short. You can kind of like bam through it in a couple of days. So this one, I think I gave like a 3.5. 3.5. Obviously sort of like did enjoy it, but again, it's just kind of, it's a classical literature one. It kind of didn't exactly grip me as the others. So that, I think that was the only 3 that I managed in that readathon. Yeah, the main monthly one, which was the Chris Carter, and then 2 out of the 4 kind of additional bingo prompts. So yes, obviously 2 books that I didn't get to that I kind of picked on for there was Kill, Killing or Murder in the Title, which I went for Murder in the Family for that one. And then it was also the Camp Leader Recommend, which was Bat Eater. Again, I didn't get to those ones, so popping them in my TBR jar, so then when I'm kind of done with these readathons, and then as of September, I would probably not really add much into the TBR jar, like anything other than maybe those ones, and then I could kind of use them for like actual October spooky, proper spooky reading. But all in all, I'm kind of happy for the progress that I did for this one, which did better in this one than I have done in the other one, which we will get to next. So the second of the readathons is Camp Spooky, hosted again on Bookstagram by Bookskywalker and moonlightbookclub. So for this one, again, 3 main monthly prompts, and then however this one is, I believe it was 16 like additional bingo prompts. So for this one I had to kind of pick 5 from the spinner wheel. So yeah, this is kind of why I didn't do as well on this one as the previous one. But again, anything that I didn't manage to get ticked off of the TBR for this will be going into TBR jar to be used later on down the line. So the first, the main June monthly prompt was a camp or camping thriller or horror. So for this one, and was the only book that I actually did own physically, I went with Camp Death by Jim Oddie. So Jim is a local author. The first time I met him was at a Halloween book party at a local indie bookshop in my hometown, Bert's Books. And that's where I first met him, picked up a couple of his books, and then since then I've basically like fangirl stalked him. He attends kind of like alternate markets fairly regularly. There's one that kind of happens in my hometown a couple of times a year, so usually like a summer and a Christmassy type one. So I'm pretty much go to them all the time anyway, because alternate spooky markets, my thing. So, but anytime that he has a stall there, I'm picking up a couple more of his books. So yeah, Camp Death, first time of actually reading this one. And I mean, just look at the absolute cover. I mean, kind of obviously ignore the whole fingerprint marks. But yeah, if that does not give camping thriller horror vibes, what will? So in this, we basically follow Richie and his sister and his mum and dad. Richie and his sister, obviously teenagers, a couple of years in between them. the mum and the dad like whisk them off on a summer holiday, don't really tell them where they're going. When they get there, it's this summer camp that's kind of been vamped. It was originally around in, I think, probably like the 80s and stuff like that, but there's kind of rumours and like myths about killings that happened and deaths that happened years and years ago, and then it kind of basically got into like disrepair, sort of shut down, and now it's kind of being taken over, built back up again. But as well as there being like the kind of whole normal summer camp aspect, there's this kind of like fancy hotel as well, where the parents stay, but the kids stay in the sort of summer camp grounds. I mean, again, as you can kind of like see, it's a relatively short book, so managed to whip through it fairly quickly. A lot of kind of like suspense, myths of like some sort of creature that is the reason behind the killings that's happened in the past. As time goes on in this camp, kids start to go disappearing, and it all kind of like kicks off with the whole like the beast is back. This was such a fun read. Absolutely loved it. Kind of probably like halfway through, I was sort of getting a little bit suspicious of one character. Sort of think, is there kind of something going on, and like they're sort of like the beast, without trying to give too much away. So I did kind of like work out a little bit at the end, or like midway through, okay, maybe it's going to be this character. The kind of ending, however, overall was a little bit like, so there is a second book, but I'm not sure if it kind of, because this is like Eerie Things series book 1, I'm not sure if these characters will be in the second one, because I feel like the second one, I feel like it's kind of vampires, a bit kind of like Lost Boys, so I'm not quite sure. So it probably ends on a little bit of like a but yeah, really fun read. Jim is such an amazing human being, and I've read a couple of other of his books, and they are honestly, like, if you love horror and thriller, these are kind of the books for you. This one is very sort of YA, inspired by like Point Horror and Goosebumps, where some of his other ones are a bit more obviously adult. But yeah, really fun read. Got through it relatively quickly, which is also something you kind of want when, you know, you're giving yourself a massive TBR for the month. So this was another one as well that I gave 5 stars to. Cannot wait to read some more. Hoping that I could maybe get the second one of this in with July's TBR as well, but we shall see. Then, literally have it wrote down here. What did I get to next? After that, I picked up Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So this one I used for the prompt of book that has podcast or true crime elements. Now, if you'd seen my previous video when I was kind of like picking the TBR, this wasn't one that was originally on like my radar, but I picked this one because again, it's another one that was on the Kindle, absolutely ages. I've seen the TV adaptation, and I just kind of want to get that series read before, I suppose, if there's any more series, it kind of like gets spoiled a little bit for me, because where I hadn't read the book but I watched the adaptation, it kind of did get a little bit spoiled. But I did sort of watch it quite a while back, so there was bits where I was sort of like, was it this character that was the killer? I can't remember. So it kind of actually worked out quite well because it was still kind of going in there, tad a little bit blind. But I picked that one because why I didn't think of that when I was actually picking for the TBR, I do not know. Because how is that podcast true crime elements not the first book I would have thought of? I literally had such a hard time trying to pick something for that. I am so annoyed. But I went for that one. Such a fun read. I love how there's sort of like interviews, kind of like podcast, video, like voice recordings. Just the way it's kind of written is, and obviously like kind of laid out within the book. So just well done. Again, another one that as soon as you start, you're pretty much flying through, can't put it down, just need to finish it to kind of help Andy get to solving. No, not Andy, that's the one that died. Help Pip solve the case. But yeah, again, probably a 4.5, I think. It was either 4.5 or 5. I literally can't remember. I'm so bad with like the scoring because I read this quite, well, obviously in this month, but a few weeks ago, so like a couple of weeks ago, so can't quite remember what I put on Goodreads. But yeah, another one, really, really enjoyed it. And then the kind of the last book that I did for this readathon was to read a graphic novel. And for this one, I kind of instantly knew which one I was going to go for. And it was Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I've seen a couple of episodes of the Netflix adaptation. I do really need to actually properly watch that series. It's kind of one of those that I get a couple of episodes in, probably get distracted with other things that come out, and then I just hardly ever seem to go back to them. But I really do need to actually finish that series because witches, spookiness, devil, it's literally my bag. So read that. Again, it's a graphic novel, super quick to get through. Haven't really read many graphic novels. I'm not sure if it's sort of genre for me. I've read a couple of like the Riverdale type ones, and a couple of like the Emily the Strange. I would kind of like to get to sort of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer ones and just kind of see how much it varies from TV show to actually what's in the graphic novel. But yeah, I'm not really sure graphic novels are kind of my thing. I don't mind dipping into them once in a while. I don't think I could do it like just full time. That's all I read is a graphic novel. But yeah, I did enjoy this one. Would I probably carry on trying to read any of the other ones in the series? Probably not, because I feel like there is quite a few. But yeah, I mean, for something that was quick to get another kind of, try to get another book ticked off of this readathon was a pretty good one to go with. So that is basically my wrap up for June. So they're the books that I was mainly prioritising for the readathons. There is 2 books as well that I have kind of been reading alongside, which is probably why I haven't really done that good in completing these kind of like prompts. One is a book club read, again, at Bert's Books. They host a book club every month. So it's the pick for this month, which I really still haven't finished, but the meeting isn't until 7th of July, so hopefully I will get that one finished. I'm kind of like over halfway, very close to finishing, so hopefully. So that, which is If We Were Villains, that's kind of what I'm currently reading as well. I'm trying to get through before the end of June. And then I am also taking part in another buddy read for Under the Dome by Stephen King. Under the Dome will probably take me a while. Maybe it is one that I might sort of dip in and out of between the 3 months. It is an absolute beast of a book, and I definitely cannot just like commit my whole time to that one book, otherwise I would like literally get nothing read. And even though I didn't exactly do very well on these readathons, I'm still gonna like keep with it, pick reads for however many prompts. Again, it's like 4 for the one, 5 or a 6 for the other one. I'll pick them, that's on the TBR. If I manage to get more done, great. If it is only like, again, a couple here and there, they'll go in a TBR jar and they'll get picked out again eventually, so I'm not really too worried. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Please obviously give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it would mean so much to me. I'm really trying to kind of be consistent and actually build up my booktube channel, so super happy that you have even given this video the time of day. I will be back in my next video, which, as I mentioned earlier, will be where I am picking the July TBR. So until then, bye.